4 million people watched that video. 4 million. Mother Jones has a print circulation of about 150,000. What if I told you not that long ago, somebody said Spencer Pratt was an election denier? All he said was, certainly could be, but stay tuned, there's more. Mother Jones magazine, one of the oldest progressive publications in America, published a piece titled, "The election denier ecosystem has a new symbol named Spencer Pratt." That's not an incident. That's not an accident. That's not clickbait. That is a calculated decision by an institution with a 50-year-old history to label a first-time candidate, a reality star who just lost the mayoral race, as a threat to democracy. Really? And I'm going to show you exactly why they did it. Because it has nothing to do with election denial and everything to do with what Spencer Pratt actually represents. If you want to understand how the media manufactures consent and how they pick who gets memory hold and who gets platformed, hit like and subscribe right now. Every click pushes this past their gatekeepers and helps us keep going up. But here's what I'm going to walk you through. First, the actual quote. Spencer Pratt really said about mail-in ballots, because the gap between what he said and what Mother Jones printed is the whole story. Second, the hypocrisy. I went back and looked at the Democrats said after 2016. The same exact things, the exact same concerns, and I'm going to show you them one by one. And third, the real reason they're afraid, because it's not about this election. It's about what happens when a guy with 4 million views on X starts asking questions about the establishment they want left unasked. All right, let's start with what actually happened, because the Mother Jones piece is a masterclass in how to smear someone without technically lying. But here's the headline. The election denier ecosystem has a new symbol named Spencer Pratt. But here's the subtext to it. The man is dangerous. This man is the next Donald Trump. This man questions the legitimacy of American elections. Don't forget the fact that there's videos of ballot boxes being on fire in LA and videos of people being paid to vote. No, nothing to see there. But here's what he actually said. Whether or not there's widespread fraud occurring, there certainly could be. Stop right there, though. Read that sentence again. Whether or not there is widespread fraud occurring, there certainly could be. That's not an accusation. That's not a claim. That's a statement of a possibility, which, when you look at the evidence, is definitely there. It is political equivalent of saying, I don't know if my door is locked, but someone could break in. No shit, Sherlock. Now I want you to notice something. Mother Jones does not quote him saying the election was stolen. What? They don't quote him saying fraud happened. Really? They don't quote him saying the result is legitimate, because he didn't say any of those things. What they do instead is call him a symbol of the ecosystem. Do you understand what that is? That's not journalism. That's framing to try and confuse you and piss you off for no reason. They can't call him denying the election, so they call him a symbol to get around it. It's guilt by association dressed up as reporting, even though he distanced himself from people like that. And here's the thing, Spencer Pratt has no obligation to trust the electoral system. None. This is the man whose house burned down while the government failed to act. A man who watched the city he lives in become ungovernable. A man who ran for office specifically because the system is broken. And you expect him to have blind faith and mail-in ballots? That's not election denial. That's not pattern recognition. Now let's talk about the hypocrisy, because this is where Mother Jones' piece collapses under its own weight, like normal. I went back and looked at what prominent Democrats said after the 2016 election, and I want you to check this out. Hillary Clinton, 2019, she suggested that voter suppression and foreign interference could have changed the outcome of a presidential election. Oh, the left was kind of silent then. That is a direct challenge to the legitimacy of the results. Stacey Abrams, 2018, refused to concede, said the election was compromised by voter suppression, became a Democratic hero for it, got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Jimmy Carter, former president, said Trump is the illegitimate president propped up by Russian interference. So let me ask you something. Hillary Clinton says compromised, election denier. Issue one, Stacey Abrams refuses. Is she an election denier? Jimmy Carter, God rest his soul. Is he an election denier? No, they're not, because the term election denier is not a description, it's a weapon. It is selectively applied to certain candidates, usually Republicans, sometimes Democrats, who ask uncomfortable questions while everyone else who can make far more aggressive claims and get book deals and Nobel nominations out of it. And Spencer Pratt, a man standing in front of his burned down house, said, certainly could be. Well, he actually gives a shit, people. But that's it. That's the whole crime. And Mother Jones deployed a 3,000-word hit piece to tell you he's a threat to democracy. Ask yourself, folks, if his question is so unserious, why does it need a 3,000 words to discredit him? Now, the third thing here. The part Mother Jones will never write, what they're actually afraid of. Spencer Pratt is not dangerous because of what he said about mail-in ballots. He's dangerous to them because of when he said it and who listened. 4 million people watched that video. 4 million on a platform where political class has spent years trying to control what you see and what you don't. Mother Jones has a print circulation of about 150,000. They're riding on his fucking coattails. Spencer Pratt has 4 million views on one video. They're not even in the same league. He doesn't need their permission to reach people. He doesn't need their platform. He has his own. And that right there is the existential threat. When a reality star with a fold-out table and a grievance reaches more Americans than a 50-year-old progressive institution, the gatekeepers have lost their job. They exist to tell you who matters and who doesn't, who's serious and who's a joke, who's legitimate and who's an election denier. And Spencer Pratt just proved you can bypass all of them, build an audience, shape a narrative, run for office, and the only tool they have left is to call you names. That's not journalism. That's panic. And just so you understand the double standard here, let me show you something else. Zohran Mamdani, DSA backsat in George Washington's desk on July 4th and told Americans their founding documents need to be reinterpreted. Told them what the Constitution really means, as he's backed by a party that says they want communism. What? This man becomes a citizen 6 years ago and now lecturing native-born Americans about their history. Spencer Pratt, born in LA, lost his house, asked a question about mail-in ballots. One of those men is profiled glowingly in the New York Times as the future of the Democratic Party in America. They want communism. The other is called an election denier and a threat to democracy. So the guy who wants communism is not a threat to democracy. What do you think? Tell me which label is earned down below. The double standard is the point. It was always a point. Let me put the whole picture together, because this is what Mother Jones and everybody wants you to miss. 1, Spencer Pratt, mail-in ballots could enable fraud. That's not denial. That's called having eyes, living in a city where elections take 2 weeks to count and there's video evidence of things being burned. 2, Democrats have been questioning elections for years and getting celebrated for it. But don't mind you that a Democrat election person from the race for Spencer Pratt was in just, I believe she pleaded guilty and she got 4 years felony for this. The only difference is which party benefits from the questions. Mother Jones didn't write a 3,000 word piece because he's wrong. They wrote it because 4 million people are listening to him. That's not a response to a threat. That's a response to a rival. And 4, the real story isn't Pratt. It's what happens when a guy with no party, no money from the bigwigs, really, and permission, starts asking the same questions you and I've been asking at the kitchen table or sitting around with a beer, and millions of people lean in and they ask, is the establishment on the move again? But watch out, they're going to label you and call you an election denier if you don't buy into everything they say. And if that doesn't work, if you keep asking questions and they run out of moves, Spencer Pratt just proved you can lose an election and still win, because the real prize isn't the office, it's the audience. Drop a comment down below, hit like, subscribe, really push everything forward.